a lot of people I know are looking at the video that was filmed illegally of me during the entire year that I lived at Braintree Village. And it seems to me that there are people who are very judgmental towards me about that. I did not choose for those cameras to be there. They were certainly put there by the property management or the maintenance, because those are the only people who had access to the apartment besides me. I think the cameras were there before I even moved in. They put them there to be able to get video of me, and they totally lied about it. And they should not have been able to evict me for it. And it was extremely depressing. It was upsetting. It's just a horrible, horrible way to live. And I feel like everything that I say about what I go through, the people who cause it to happen to me, they totally disregard it. They don't care what I have to say. You know, I mean, it's like people making fun of me. I was incredibly, incredibly depressed the entire time I lived in that building. And also, I had initially liked that the building was kind of far away. I mean, it was the first apartment that I looked at. I did not know that I could get extensions for the voucher. The voucher is you're supposed to have 2 months to find an apartment after you get the Section 8 voucher. And I did not want to have to worry about losing the voucher, because the voucher is really important, because housing is expensive and I'm poor. So I was told about the apartment through the agency, like the mental health agency who had placed people there before. So I went out there. The apartment seemed like seemed like a nice place. The people seemed nice enough. I could tell they didn't really want me to move in. But I guess they couldn't really think of a reason to keep me out. So they took me as tenant and put cameras in the apartment. And I had to live with those cameras all year. I didn't know how to get them out of the apartment. But that doesn't mean that I wanted them there any more than all the other things that I can't stop from happening are things that I want to be happening to me or anybody else. You know, I mean, but to blame me for it and to ridicule me for it, you know, I mean, for me to the Braintree T-stop is the very last station on the red line. Which it goes in two directions. All the train stations do. All the train lines do, right? You have it on one side of it. I think Alewife is the last stop, and in the other direction, it branches into two. It's Ashmont and Braintree, and Braintree is the very last stop. And once the train gets to Braintree, it turns around and goes the other way. So, and it takes, I don't know, it's about 20 minutes, half an hour. It usually took half an hour to walk to the train station from the apartment that I had. All right, and it's a substantial walk. And then it would take another half hour to get into Boston, Cambridge, where there was anybody that I knew, right? So, and then the entire time I would be stalked by vehicles, harassed, that kind of thing. So, and there wasn't really anywhere for me to go. There wasn't anything for me to do, really. You know, I had tried to be part of like a day program supported for people who have had, like, you know, any sort of mental health situation, but they threw me out of that too. You know, I wrote about that a few times. You know, I wasn't treated very well. They had wet floor signs around. I really wasn't treated that well. But even so, I would have gone to it because I thought it was important. You know, I had been homeless for 2 years, which can be, you have your own kind of form of stabilization when you socialization when you're homeless. You know, and I felt like I knew there would be a transition to go from living with 100 people, at least 100 people, to having nobody around you. It's an important transition. It's difficult to navigate that. Plus, I had been abused the entire time, so that made it even more difficult. And I just felt like it would be good for me to try to be in a stable situation. But I got thrown out of that psychiatric day program too. You know, I said I hardly had any clothing. I did not have enough clothing to get through a week. You know, I mean, because you can live like that when you're homeless. 1 pair of pants, 2 pairs of pants, a couple shirts. You know, you try to do your free laundry somewhere once a week. You wear your clothes for a few days. R32222. And people don't really notice as long as you are clean, right? But you can't really do that in the regular world. I told them I'm really having trouble getting through a week like this. You know, also because all of a sudden I had to pay for laundry. And they were like, all right, well, you have too many problems for us. This really isn't part of what our program does, and they just kicked me out. And they didn't care, right? And I knew that was bad. I knew it was bad that I had like no source of support, nowhere to go, nowhere to be. And I just was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna try to get through from one day to the next. Not only because I knew the cameras were in the apartment, but also because I was, realizing that the conglomerate just kept publicizing and kept publicizing and kept publicizing the videos that had already been filmed to me in bathrooms, in psychiatric units, in homeless shelters. Really didn't care. They just don't care. And how it is you can do that to somebody, and to watch them suffer so much day after day after day, and just not care what it is you're doing to them. I don't know what makes people act like that. I have no idea what turns people into the kind of people who can do that for someone and just not care what they're doing to them. And I was suicidal just all the time. Yeah. So I have to say, I don't know. People tell themselves all kinds of things, I suppose, about why they're doing what they're doing to other people. So I guess I'm not sure what else to do except to continue to say, no, this is not how I feel about this. I do not want to be treated like this. You do not have the right to put me or anybody else through this. And whatever it is you're trying to tell yourself about how it's not only not something that you're doing wrong, but it's actually my fault, that is not true. You should not treat anybody like this, and you should not. I don't even know how it happened. How did this ever happen? How? That this is being treated like it's a normal way to treat somebody. That I don't know.